Hello, everyone. Looks like a small class today. Okay, well, let's get started. We'll do our opening prayers, so please make the mandala mudra and we'll get started. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Buru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay, let's do some rejoicing. I'm going to start with me. I had an appointment with a vascular surgeon yesterday concerning my peripheral circulation. And it turns out my peripheral circulation is normal, which is good. I had purple toes, which seemed to me to be a bad thing, but he assured me that there may be some pooling of blood, but my echocardiogram was normal. So that's that's good news because peripheral circulation can lead to infections and all kinds of problems. So I'm quite happy about that. What else happened? Oh, I'm looking for a piece of information for what's probably going to be the last article I write. And I called a facility in Virginia and asked if they had this information. And the young lady at the other end of the conversation said she thinks she had just looked at what I was looking for earlier in the day. So she was going to go see if she could find it for me today. So I may get a phone call during class, which I'll have to answer. But now it occurs to me she may have been looking at a paper I've already seen. So I'm a little concerned I'm not going to get the information I want. But the point of rejoicing about it was that I rejoice that my past helping people get what they need right away is ripening with me getting the kind of things I need right away. So I know in order to have that keep happening, I need to help people right away. So that is interesting to come full circle. Okay, Claire, you're up next.
Hello, Venerable Sumati. I have 2 points to rejoice about. The first one, like yesterday, I listened to the second class of Mahamudra teachings by Lama Sarani, and it was taught that ultimate way to go refuge is to remember about karma emptiness and to start any project, we need to create karmic seeds for that. So today, before diving into business day about creating strategy and etc., I read Daimatkata Sutra, and then the day was wonderful. It was peaceful, and there were no angry meetings which happened the day before. So I'm rejoicing about this way of practices. And the second point of rejoicing, like I was starting to get more angry about yelling boss, and then I started my mind started to create that if they like invite something or something like this, I would not come there, etc. But then I stopped and started to think that there are some vows about it. So I decided that I should not go on this track of thoughts, and if I see such disrespectful attitude, I should cultivate more respectful attitude. And such contemplations helped to reduce anger. So
Very good. We're going to talk about anger a little bit again today. Excellent. Well, you caught yourself and didn't. That's what we're here to try and teach. Okay, there was something I was going to mention. Oh, okay. Daria, what do you have to rejoice about?
Good morning, Venerable Sumati. I rejoice. Oh, today in the morning I was angry and jealous feel for my colleague, and I say myself, okay, Daria, stop, stop, it's your seat. And my ego say, what? It's your seat? You're joking? I say, okay, if you want, it's this in future you want to feel and see how colleague do with you not good. Okay, you can jealous, you can angry for these colleagues. Okay, it's your um,
Choice.
it's your yes, it's your choice. I say, no, 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 I don't want. Okay, I stopped my angry,
Very
and I
good.
do for her Tonglen. But it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's a struggle. Believe me, I'm faced with that more than I like with Parkinson's. I'm starting to get frustrated very easily, and I've got to catch myself and stop that because I don't want to have that in my future. But it's my dexterity is less than it was a month ago, and tying my shoes and getting dressed is becoming more of an issue, which I'm trying to put off having to have my lovely wife help me for all this because I know it's going to be a burden for her. So, anyway, enough about me. Who's next? Anna, you're next.
Hello, dear Venerable Sumati. Hello, everyone. The first one for me, I was going for a walk today, and it looks like the spring is coming. More sun, more light, birds are singing, so it smells like spring, and I'm very happy about it. And the second one, today I found time to do some tasks on the ACI platform for some future courses which will be started soon. So I'm also very glad to do some tasks and be useful for ACI. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing that for ACI. I know that can be a struggle, but it's very important. Without the volunteers, ACI would be, well, it'd be difficult. Okay. Katya, you're up next.
Yes. Hi, hello, everybody. I rejoice that I buy the flight to Diamond Mountain. So I'm coming on April to Diamond Mountain. I'm very happy about that. I'm just going for the teachings. I'm not going to stay for the retreat, but I'm happy to be there.
Well, it's going to be great to see you. We'll see you at the fire puja, I think. That's our intent now.
Mhm.
Great. Good. Okay. Is Sheila coming too?
Yes, both.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready for the two of you in one room again, but that'll be fun. Okay. Tatiana, what do you have to rejoice about?
Здравствуйте, досточтимый Сумати.
Good afternoon, dear Venerable Sumati. Good evening,
У меня
everyone.
сегодня день
Today
завершающий
I
карму.
have a day of with finishing karma.
Я завершила
I finished
курировать 14-й курс.
be a curator of
Я
ACI
сегодня
14. Today I
закрыла свой долг.
finished my
Я
I
сегодня
closed
закончила
my debt,
редактировать материал
and
для
today
клуба
I finished to
медитации
edit
Академии
materials
космической мудрости.
for the club
В общем,
of
феерично. И моя мама себя
meditations
сегодня
of
лучше чувствует
Academy of Classical
по сравнению с
Wisdom,
другими
and my
днями.
mom is
В
feeling
общем,
today
сегодня
better
очень
than
замечательный
in
день.
other days. So today is wonderful day.
Well, very good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, you look happy. That's great. Okay. I don't say Evgeny's recording, so I won't ask him. Okay. Well, we're winding up the review of the vows, Bodhisattva vows. I wanted to go over the practice, the 4 points of the practice of virtue, because I think that's something that tends to be overlooked when we're going through the vows, and it's very germane. So the 4 points of virtue: not responding to anger with anger, not responding to yelling with yelling, not responding to hitting someone with hitting, and not to respond by saying bad things about people when bad things are said to you. So anger with anger. I think that's a habitual problem that to be human, you have. Your habit is to respond with anger. If someone's mad at you, then you get mad at them, and it takes well, that's what Buddhism's all about. We're trying to develop the habit of stopping and catch, like Dari was telling us. You see what's going on. You see that you're setting the seeds for it to happen in the future if you respond improperly. But you have to really catch yourself and sincerely think that. So anger with anger, that makes sense. Yelling with yelling. I don't think I've been in a yelling situation in years, but you could interpret that to raising your voice, a combative talking, interrupting someone and trying to get them to understand your point of view, hitting with hitting. I haven't hit anybody in anger since the 6th grade, where I had my one and only fight with somebody. So I can say that without fear of contradiction. And then spreading malicious words about someone in response to you having someone do that to you. I don't oh, there was one instance in my life. This is back in 5th grade. So in 5th grade, I was maybe 12, 13 years old. Is that right? No, 1963. So I was 10. And I'd just been, the teacher just assigned me to be the sergeant of arms in our student government, and I was pretty excited about it. And a bunch of girls didn't want me to be sergeant of arms. And so they told the teacher I had misbehaved, and the teacher took away my being sergeant at arms. And that was rumor. I didn't have anything to say about it. I said it's not true, and she said, "Well, I'm doing it anyway." So that's the only instance I can think of where someone had said something unkind about me, and it resulted in something happening to me. I'm pretty low key at Diamond Mountain. Well, that's not true. Diamond Mountain is pretty high key, um, pretty high profile because of being in charge of so much. But just catch your habitual response. I think that's for many people it becomes such a part of their livelihood that they don't think about the fact that it's a habitual response. We're trying to take bad habits of any kind, even the smallest ones, and turn them into good habits. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the behaviors related to helping others. So you break Bodhisattva, the number 35 interpretation of the secondary vows. Number 35 is not to go help someone in need. The whole idea of being a bodhisattva is we go and help them, people that we see need help. It's actually less the great heroic acts of jumping into a river to save someone from drowning than it is everyday effort. So, for instance, holding open a door, getting water for someone working at DM in the summer when it's hot and nasty, staying after class to clean up, washing dishes, etc., helping travelers, teaching skills or language, helping with general virtuous activities. That's one thing that when we were at Diamond Mountain during the early classes, since we lived on Diamond Mountain, we just stayed to clean up after class because why not? We lived only maybe a couple 100 yards away. But you'd be surprised how many people don't do that. It would be the same crew staying to clean up. Now, so part of that is if you look around and see other people cleaning up, putting the cushions away, then they've got it taken care of. You don't need to help them. That's one way of looking at it. The best way of looking at it when you're in that situation is to go and ask if they need help. Better yet, just go start putting the cushions away. Or if you go to the temple with a glass of green drink, and make sure you take that glass back over to the Jesuit Kappa Center. When you find yourself just leaving things for someone else to clean up, that's setting the karma I don't want. Be always looking for a way to help. Don't wait to be asked. Now, there are exceptions. If you're sick, you obviously can't help. Time already committed to help elsewhere. Been asked by your Lama or Geshe Michael to do something else. Helping a person, you can refer to another for help. If you can't handle, you don't have the skills necessary to help them. So for instance, they're having a mental breakdown and you're not trained in helping with that kind of a thing. This is a delicate one. If they have other sufficient means to get assistance. So if they have their cell phone and they have a flat tire, I could rationally think that they can call help and I don't need to stop. But that's assuming their phone's working. You don't know. So you stop and ask. And if they say they don't need help, then you have to decide whether they're just saying that out of being polite or they really don't need help. The last part of that is if helping creates more problems than solving their need. That's a delicate one. If helping, so here's an example. I may have told you this story, but I think this is germane to this particular topic. I had a student come down that was always up at the Lama house with Geshe and Lama Christie during the day when we were in session. And he came down and asked if I could help him with the project. So I helped him and was quite pleased with it because it was something about a spreadsheet that I could help him with. And later that day at the class, Lama Christie called me up and asked me if I'd helped this student. And I said, well, sure. He asked him for help and I helped him. And she goes, I wanted him to do that because I wanted him to solve the problem, not have other people help him. So that was an instance where my helping him caused more problems than helping him. Now, there's no way for me to know that. So it's not like I did something intentionally to cause the stress. But just be alert, be aware, but be ready to help. Now, I was leaving a store yesterday. I'm starting to use hiking sticks when I walk. And I had a package in my hand and I was leaving the store and the lady in front of me opened the door, walked through it, didn't look behind her, and the door was spring-loaded and slapped back at me with my hands full with the walking sticks. I thought that was going to happen just by watching her body language. I knew she was in a hurry. So it didn't cause me any big deal. But just simply opening the door and looking back to see if someone coming through has packages, or if you see someone with their hands full, opening the door to help them get into the store or wherever they're going. It seems trivial, but that's the kind of thing that if you do with wisdom, saying to yourself, by my helping this individual, I'm setting the seeds to have the help I need in the future. And dedicating, that's the whole point of what we're here trying to do. So number 36, to avoid helping the sick. That's a bit difficult. You have to be careful if you're helping the sick and they've got COVID or something like that. You have to be careful for your own health. Well, this one's pretty straightforward. If someone's sick, you need to go. You need to find out how. You need to find out how you can help them. I think that's one problem I'm having now with people wanting to help me is how can I put it? If I need help, I'd prefer to have whoever wants to help me ask, well, how can I help you? Because it may be that what I'm trying to do is not give in to the helpless feeling of Parkinson's. So if someone says, oh, let me do that for you. But if you find yourself saying that, stop and look and make sure and ask. me or whoever you're trying to help. I've got to learn to accept help. That's something that I've never been good at in my life. Now I've got to start doing a better job of that. So Jason Kappa says there are two classic reasons for people breaking the secondary vows. You want to hurt someone and you do it out of anger. You don't go and help someone who's sick because you're angry at them and feel they deserve what they got. That's pretty hideous, right? Well, I have to be aware that with our new president, I have to catch myself not thinking, I hope this happens, I hope that happens. He's doing these tariffs with Mexico and Canada. So he thinks it's going to solve the problems of the world, which of course it isn't. So I've got to be sure that I'm not thinking he's going to get what he deserves. And it's not up to me to be rejoicing for someone getting what they deserve. That's totally inappropriate. If you take your vows lightly, they will take you lightly and you will get nowhere. So what do I mean by that? If you just casually think about your bodhisattva, any of your vows, you're not going to get the progress you want. If you're interested in taking the Tantra classes from Geshe in the next couple of years, you need to refocus your efforts to make your bodhisattva vows be very, very prominent in your life. That's what's setting the conditions for you to do well in Tantra. It's just that simple. So I encourage you all to qualify for the Tantra classes. Getting the Tantric initiation from Geshe is a very powerful thing. Now, I think what's going to happen is we got what's called the Diamond Master teachings from Geshe Michael and Lama Christie, which allows us to give the tantric vows. What I think people are going, this is my take on it. I don't know this is true, but I'm pretty sure it is. What he's going to do is give initiations into several tantric practices. But that doesn't mean you can teach someone else that practice. That's the difference between 6 years of study we did at Diamond Mountain University and the 1 year of training you're going to be getting. You're still going to have a full tantric practice and a real one, authentic one. But you can't give it to someone else without taking the courses that my lovely wife's teaching. So, and I think, well, I don't know. We'll have to wait until see what he says in April. Okay, number 37. Not to try to stop someone's mental or physical suffering. We've covered that. 38, not trying to reason with those doing something which will cause them future suffering. This you have to be careful with because you don't want to be a busybody and say, oh, I see you're suffering. You need to do this. And it's not up to us to interfere. It's up to us to observe and then respond. So this is a lot of these are pretty fine line. If you see someone crying, sometimes the worst thing you can do is go up to them and ask if they need help. But you don't know that. So what you have to do is go up and just find out if there's something you can do for them. I've had that happen very rarely to me. Failing to repay someone who has helped you, number 39. You don't think about what they did for you, you can't outdo their kindness. Exceptions, waiting for a better opportunity to repay them. They would be embarrassed or uncomfortable or would prefer not to be repaid. So what's an example of this? What would be a good example? Well, a trivial one would be working in the kitchen. When we used to work in the kitchen at Diamond Mountain, there'd be plenty of opportunity to help someone. I didn't particularly like cutting. My wife and I had to prepare the salad bar, the stuff you put on the salad. And so we had a lot of chopping to do. And I don't know how many of you have worked in a kitchen, but after a while, preparing zucchini and cucumbers and things like that, after about the 30th cucumber, it gets pretty old. So for me, what I needed to do and did well, because I knew how much I didn't like. It's not that I didn't like chopping the vegetables, it got boring. So I'd look around to see if I could help someone else doing a repetitive job in the kitchen and try and help them because I knew I didn't like the repetitive job. So if I didn't like it, I was pretty sure someone else didn't like it. So I made sure to help. God, what was the one? Oh, and for my wife, we needed to fill the cold where they have the salad fixings for uh, the food line at Diamond Mountain. You need to put ice underneath to keep everything cool. And that meant taking a lot of ice out, which is cold and heavy. And so I'd make sure that I did that and not my wife. If she was starting to do it, I would go over and take care of it for her. So it was a job that we both had. I just made sure that she didn't have to struggle with that. And again, that seems so trivial, but when I stop and think about what I need now for help, um, it isn't trivial. And 40, failing to try to stop someone's grief. This one, I think this one's, you have to be very sensitive. Sometimes with someone's grief, they just want to be left alone and don't need someone. When you go up and say, oh, what's the phrase I'm looking for? When someone's died, like an next door neighbor here, her husband's passed away. So when you say you're so sorry, that for some reason seems rather, I don't know the man from Adam. So when I say I'm so sorry for your loss, how can I know what her loss is? So how do you failing to stop someone's grief? I'm trying to think of an example of that. I don't have a good example. Oh, here's a good example. Well, it's again kind of a trivial example. I was working with my computer yesterday, and for some reason it was putting everything into a non-existent file. I've tried to stop the cloud. I don't like the idea of the cloud, but Microsoft has you automatically dumping stuff into the cloud. And all of a sudden files that I knew I'd saved, I couldn't find. So I finally decided that I was going to fix that, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how. It took me 45 minutes to find a phone number to call Microsoft. And then I called them, they took control of my computer and eliminated the Microsoft cloud. I was getting pretty upset. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. I was pleased. This is a rejoiceable. I was pleased that I did not get distressed. I mean, a lot of work I'd done, a lot of good writing was potentially gone. I was going to have to start over again, and I was not pleased with that. But because I know that getting angry wasn't going to solve the problem, I just maintained, well, I'm going to try and solve this myself, and if I can't, then I'll call Microsoft. So when my wife has a problem like this with her computer, that's when I could say, well, it's a dumb old computer and Microsoft's a terrible software. Or I can say, let me have your computer. I'll try to fix it. So it's not so much trying to stop someone's grief as it is trying to reassure them. So maybe another way of looking at that, failing to reassure someone is better than failing to stop someone's grief. Number 41, not giving material assistance to someone who needs it. You need the motivation of wanting to hurt someone, being angry and not caring, not respecting your vows, not helping. The exceptions are you don't have what they need or what they want is harmful. Not giving material assistance to someone who needs. That'd be like me driving by someone back in the day at Diamond Mountain with a flat tire and just driving by. Because I could help them. I had the skills, I had the strength. So that would be breaking this vow. Even if I was late for an appointment, I would stop and help. Failing to take care of the needs of your students, number 42. Well, I think I try very hard to take care of the needs of all of you as best I can. So it's pretty obvious. You ignore what they need. You do it to teach the student a lesson, or it would break a monastic vow if they're capable of supporting themselves, or if they're incorrigible and do not make progress. I've always said to my students and my staff when I was in charge of staff in a university science lab, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And I take that back. And I always say the only dumb question is the question you don't ask to need help. Now, if you ask me the same question 5 or 6 times, I might have to say, well, think about it a little more before you ask. My dad, when we were in Europe, I was on sabbatical when I was 8. I was in a question asking mode. I was curious about everything. And at one point, so we're driving down the road in a VW microbus with 5 kids aged from 7 to 14. And it got pretty boring. So I'd ask my dad a question. And one day, I don't know where we were in Europe, one day he said, David, ask me every 10th question. So I started counting the questions, and then I'd ask him after 10. He thought that was pretty funny. But that's taking care of the needs of my, he was taking care of my needs, but he had to do it in a way that was conducive for him. So don't be afraid to ask a question, even if you've asked it before. Don't be afraid to ask. If I think I've answered the question several times for you, I'll figure out a way to let you know. Number 43, failing to get along with others. The exceptions, getting along with someone won't work. The person just doesn't plain like you or is jealous of you. So it doesn't mean you don't be nice to them, but don't get stressed on the fact that they don't treat you properly. If the other person won't cooperate to get along and it gets worse, you're not breaking the vow. If they're teaching something wrong spiritually, or getting along with them would cause harm to others. So you have to put into context all of these. 44, failing to praise someone's good qualities or something good they've said. I think paying compliments is something I can do better. Lately, with the phone help I've gotten with technology or with medical appointments, I compliment the individual about having a really nice voice for doing this kind of work. And they all laugh and say thank you. And I think when I don't do that, I get upset with myself because it's a thankless job answering the phones. And to make someone's day, to cheer someone up, I think it's very powerful. So I break number 44 if I fail to praise someone's good qualities or something good that they've said, even if it's something as trivial as someone being on the phone with me. That's the level I try to do to keep these vows. So think of ways to keep them rather than worrying about breaking them. I think that's part of my advice. Number 45, failing to cut off a person when it's necessary. This is difficult. We don't want to interrupt. If we interrupt, we're seeing that we're setting the seeds for people to interrupt us. And I don't know about you, but if I'm talking to someone, I really don't, for the most of the time, I'm really not interested in someone interrupting me. So, as I've said in previous classes, what I do, if I'm talking to Katya and Svetlana comes up and wants to talk to me, I just turn and say, Svetlana, I'll be with you in a minute, and continue and finish my conversation with Katya. That's because I'm setting the seeds to not have people interrupt me. And by doing that, it makes it simpler for both Katya and Svetlana, because I'm giving my full attention to Katya, but Svetlana knows, I know in the back of my mind, I need to help her. There's nothing more frustrating to me than standing when two people are talking and you need to talk to one of them, standing there and have them just ignore you. I think that's breaking a vow, personally. Okay. Failing to cut someone's off. Well, as a teacher, you may not have had this happen yet, but as a teacher, sometimes a student will ask a question, and instead of they're asking a question, they're really trying to show the class what they know. And there's a point in time to do that, but sometimes the question and answer can be 4 or 5 minutes during class. So, but how do you cut them off? That's really, and in a way that will not make them feel embarrassed or something. I haven't developed that skill yet. I usually just end up saying, we need to get back to the subject. So if I say, we need to get back to the subject, then you'll know your question's been too long. Okay, 46. Try failing to use your supernatural powers when necessary. There's an oral tradition here. You're now the next link in this chain. There are some instructions that are not written. They are orally passed from generation to generation, especially in our lineage. One is, if you have the power to do a miracle, you're not allowed to use it, talk about it, or admit that you can do them. I don't have that power. Why not? If doing a miracle is what is required to convince someone that Buddhism is the correct path, then it will not help much. It will just require another miracle to keep them interested. So we're not allowed to do them or talk about them. This vow means that when the time comes when it would make a difference, you must use your powers, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Spiritual powers are a side effect of strong practice and not the goal. So where does that fit into daily life? I don't have any supernatural powers that I know. Well, I do have one supernatural power. And Katya, I think, knows what I'm going to say. My supernatural power is I have a fantastic sense of humor. I can make a pun out of just about anything. So failing to use my supernatural power when necessary allows me to make jokes. I think that's a rather silly example of a supernatural power, but I think that's, well, it's a gift. Some people say it's a curse, but I think it's a gift. So, okay. So that's the 46th plus the 18 makes for 64 vows. So here are some etceteras. These are also vows not to break. They're offenses against the wish for enlightenment, but they're not they're kind of a reiteration of what we've just been talking about. The first one is failing to support those who deserve it with dharma or material assistance, failing to let go of anger when someone hurts you, discriminating between people, liking and disliking, good or bad, failing to take yourself to a spiritual teacher if available, failing to learn and contemplate the dharma if it's available, failing to think of others as you use objects. Basically, not being a consumer of good karma, dedicating and regenerating our karma that we're using up. failing to think that good deeds you're doing are to benefit all living beings as you do the good deed. I can't help someone in an ultimate way until I become enlightened. I wish that everything I do could become a cause for me to reach the goal of a totally enlightened being for the benefit of others. So this is very similar to the thought of dedicating. We need to take the habit of just accepting karmic consequences and develop the habit of dedicating our deeds, our wisdom, so that we get the help we need, the karma ripening in the future. So dedication's more, as much, I'm trying to say this. Dedicating a good deed is reiterating your wisdom as well as protecting it in your root of virtue so you don't destroy it by getting angry at a bodhisattva. So you look at I look at dedication, I look at rejoicing as reiterating to myself every time we do rejoicing practice that what we're trying to do is remind ourselves constantly about karma and emptiness and the wisdom of knowing about karma and emptiness and how that can affect our future lives. So there are 4 black deeds and 4 white deeds. The white deeds are antidotes to the black deeds. To knowingly deceive your Lama, that's a black deed. The antidote, never speak a lie to any being, even in jest. So I had some white lie issues come up. I should have written them down. They were really good examples to me of white lie. What were they? It was yesterday. Well, I can't remember them now, but knowingly deceiving your Lama, never speak a lie to any being, even in jest. So that covers white lies. To get someone to regret something virtuous they have done, try to get people to practice the Bodhisattva ideal. This pertains to the example I've given earlier, where we were at one of the quiet retreat teachings, which is what we call the teachings where Geshe Michael would teach during their 3-year retreat. They would come out once every couple of months and blindfolded so they couldn't see us, and he'd teach, and those were called the quiet retreat teachings, which are very powerful teaching. So what happened in one of them was they asked my opinion of how the teaching went, how it was organized. And I gave them my opinion, which was critical. It wasn't like you did a terrible job. It was like these things could have been done differently. And they took great offense at that. And so basically, unknowingly, I had gotten them to regret something virtuous they had done. I didn't have my bodhisattva vows at that point, so I didn't get in big trouble karmically. But I realized that when you critique something like that, it's best to lead off with praise. Here's what they did great, and then you say, but there's this, in my opinion, room for improvement. But then you have to couch it and say, this isn't critical. This is an observation that you've asked me to do. But, well, this is another example. When I had staff members, the first time I had any staff I was in charge of, after a couple of months of being in charge, I gave them a questionnaire checking in on how well I had done. I thought I'd done a pretty good job. I let them have their birthday off. They could not come to work on their birthday. Little things like that. When I got the got the questionnaires back, they, all of them, to a person, said they didn't like the fact that I was constantly checking in on them during the work they were doing. I felt I was showing interest in what they were doing, and they took it as being overzealous, watching what they were doing, trying to find a mistake, which was the farthest thing from my mind. So be careful. Be careful with, well, what's a better word than constructive criticism? Because criticism people take to mean you're doing it wrong and you should be doing a better job. What could we use? What could we say is a helpful suggestion? That doesn't. Well, if you're going to criticize someone and it's, golly, we're not supposed to be critical of others. But that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. How do we fit that into this? Well, at board meetings, I would present my idea and just leave it. If you try and get a reputation where people respect the fact that you're going to give an idea and then not try and force it on others. Saying something on number 3, saying something unpleasant to a bodhisattva out of anger. We've been over this one before. We can't tell who is a bodhisattva or not. So try not to say unpleasant things to anybody. And the antidote for that, the one I'm using every day with President Trump, always think that there is something deeper going on. There is some reason why this has happened. And everyone around you is striving to make you happy. They're doing things to give you a message and to make you happy. So how does President Trump's weird things he's doing make me happy? Well, whenever something bad happens to me, now that I've taken the various vows I've taken and studied what I've studied, I look at that as burning off a karmic seed for having mistreated somebody else. And by responding with wisdom, I burn that seed off, and I'm not going to have that particular problem ripen again. Now, the struggle that we have when we first start out with karma and emptiness is, I don't know how many times I was inconsiderate to other people. So I burn off one seed ripening for being inconsistent. There may be another 10,000 seeds waiting to ripen. So you could get depressed about that, or you could think, if there are 10,000, I've just eliminated one, so now there's 9,999. By not reacting ignorantly, I haven't made it 10,001 or 10,002. So that's how I look. I'm chipping away at all the bad karmic seeds ripening as things that are not pleasant for me. I'm chipping away at it. And one of these days, there's no reason to think that I will have ripened the last of the seeds for Parkinson. And I've said that before, and I still completely believe it. I got up this morning and my posture was great. It degraded pretty quickly. But I realized for that brief 5 minutes, I felt pretty good. The 4 black D's. We're on number 4. To be devious, dishonest, or deceitful to any being with a bad motivation. Well, if you're devious, dishonest, or deceitful, you can't be doing that with a good motivation. Be totally honest and straightforward with every being you meet. That's pretty straightforward. You want to be sure that if you don't want people misguiding you and lying and making your life difficult, then there's a very simple antidote to that is try and make sure you do the best to help someone get what they need as quickly as you can. One thing that's very hard to regain is someone's trust. If you've done something deceitful and they find out about it, I have one sister-in-law and her husband, well, it's a long story. And I won't just, it's a long story. But her husband did something very deceitful and she forgave him and they're still married and doing fine. But she said in the back of her mind, she's always thinking he may be trying to pull a stunt again. So whenever I see him, he's a very nice young man. Well, he's not young anymore. But I gotta admit, every time I saw him and he said something, I was like, was that really true? So tried very hard to be totally honest and keep the respect and the trust of others. Because once you lose trust, it becomes pretty unpleasant in my experience. Okay, that's it for class 9. We have class 10, then we have the review. How can we find out who's going to, now some of you have taken the course already. Who's going to be interested in doing the review? Okay. Well, I'll assign questions next class. It never hurts to do the review. I find that to be really good test to see how much you understand what we're doing. Okay. Well, let's do our dedication. Okay. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma top of the Buddhas, always increase. May all sentient beings know happiness and the causes of happiness, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings never be separated from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free from attachments and aversion, and may I help them achieve this. I know going through the Bodhisattva vows and their detail can get exhausting, but it's important you know the vows so that you can make sure not to break them. Okay, we'll see you, let's see, Thursday. Yeah, see you Monday morning. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Okay, bye-bye.